Hey, hi all. So today video that we are going to discuss about that DO380, right? The content and then the curriculum, like how we can going to cover those officials content of Red Hat in those DO380 training, right? So for that, what we have exactly, we have like some course content that we have a total this chapter overall, right? So what we have overall we have like 11 chapter for the same to in this particular DO380, right? So when I show you those, the first point what we have that, right, in this particular DO380, earlier we are like we have 198, then we have like 280, then we have a 380. So right, in the 380 what we have the same as if you notice on the point what we have that. So we have like option for the Red Hat OpenShift administrator. Third, with the help of those Kubernetes applications, right, how we can scale those deployment with the help of different mechanisms in your enterprise application or in your enterprise, right? So the very first point what we have that, right, if you notice on the first chapter what we have that moving from Kubernetes to OpenShift, right? So what exactly we have in this when we're talking about those content and then those curriculum. So in this particular chapter that we are going to talk about how we can deploy applications on OpenShift using standard Kubernetes services, right? That we are going to discuss in that point. Second, what we are going to discuss about that we are going to discuss like enhanced Kubernetes application using the OpenShift extensions from the Kubernetes, right? So what we can say when we talk about the Kubernetes resources, so we can say again like we discussed how OpenShift is enterprise Kubernetes, right? And then the authentications to the OpenShift and all those things that we are going to discuss about those things. Then we'll discuss about those deploy native Kubernetes applications on the OpenShift, and then also we'll discuss about how we can use Kubernetes customized resources, right, to customize those particular application in your OpenShift deployment applications and all those things, right? So this is like very point, the basic point that what we have that, like if we wanted to moving from Kubernetes to OpenShift, then how we can describe those things and how we can run those kind of command, how we can customize those things, authentication with the help of LDAP or with the help of HT password mechanism. Basically in the 380 and 480 we have like LDAP authentications, authorizations to log in on those machines. Then we have like multiple way we have options for the same we can perform in that chapter number first when we're talking about those different options and different syntaxes and all, right? Similarly, when you're talking about the chapter number second, what we have that, right, then we're talking about simple the automations part in the OpenShift. It means overall what we can say with the help of Ansible or with the help of playbook, how we can automate our entire OpenShift, right? So in that what we are going to do that is simply we are going to discuss how we can write and then checking those particular Ansible playbook, right? And we are also discuss about how we can extract the resources information from the OpenShift using the JSON path environment and all those things. We have option for the same that we are going to discuss in that particular querying the OpenShift resources, right? And also that we are going to execute clusters operation script from inside and outside of your OpenShift. So that point also we are going to discuss in this particular chapter. And then OpenShift REST APIs, how we can navigate those particular OpenShift REST APIs informations. And then finally that we're going to talk about how we can automate creations and modification of OpenShift resources using Ansible K8 module, Kubernetes module, we can say that, right? So in the chapter this one 2.7 and all, right? So overall what we have then with the help of Ansible playbook, how we can automate those entire thing, extracting those information using the different mechanisms, execute the clusters operations, writing a script, and execute those things in the, we can say, the inside clusters or outside of your OpenShift, right? Then so these are like basics point that we are going to cover in this particular chapter number second, that we can say the automate your OpenShift with the help of this particular Ansible, right? Now so jumping on the chapter number third, what we have in the chapter number third that we have like manage OpenShift operator. It means what? Again, you guys are aware of those operator hub, right? So in the operator hub what exactly we have, that we have options for the same, like from the operator. It's like a very important point from the exam point of view too as well. So with the help of operator, how we can describe, we can say the Kubernetes controller and then the operator pattern, we can say that, right? Install and troubleshoot operator from the operator hub. Wanted to install some kind of operator, wanted to remove something, maybe if any problem occurred in your particular operator, then how we can troubleshoot those things from the different mechanisms and then technique. Then also we'll discuss about these, how we can identify the namespace and resources of a cluster's operator, right? So it's a small chapter number 3, but again these are like a very important point. Again I'm mentioning those things, right? With the help of these things, how we can describe those, how we can use those operator, the operator hub. From that operator hub, how we can install those packages and all those things, like a point we can mention this in the particular chapter number 3. We can say the managing OpenShift operators, like an important point in the exam point of 2 as well. Now, so jumping on the next point, what we have that we have like chapter number 4, that we can say implementing GitOps with Jenkins. So what exactly we have in this particular GitOps with Jenkins? So again, so simply we talk about the Jenkins concept. Again, you guys know the CI and CD pipeline and all those things. So but again we'll discuss we can describe Jenkins concepts and then Jenkins pipeline concept. We'll discuss that. Then deploy Jenkins on OpenShift using standard template, we can say, and the image stream. Again, like if you have a Jenkins and all those things, what we have options, either you can download the Jenkins in your local machines or maybe the cloud machines, and then you can access those things. Similarly, if you want to deploy your OpenShift want to deploy the Jenkins in the OpenShift, so what we have that, we have a template mechanisms, right? And then we have an image stream as well. So again, we can say deploy Jenkins over the OpenShift using standard template and the image streams, right? And also we are going to discuss in the chapter number 4, then we are going to talk about like configure clusters operator using the resources file in the declarative way, right? We have imperative and declarative way. So again, in this chapter number 4, right, that we are also discuss about, like wanted to configure the clusters operator, right, with the help of declarative way, how we can do that, right? And now then we are simply talked about this particular chapter number 4.8 sections, right, that we have like configure those particular information, we can say those like automate the configurations of clusters operator, right, from the resources in Git using the different we can say multiple options, but now we are going to use this particular Jenkins pipeline, right? The process and all those are remain same. With the help of these process, how we can modify or how we can check those things, so we can also verify and then we can also check those things, right? So this is about chapter 4 actually, right, that we have like options for that, how we can automate those configurations of cluster operator from the resources in the Git using the Jenkins pipelines. So it's a small point again. So overall what we have that, if you have like GitOps and all those things, want to deploy the Jenkins and all those things, then how we can perform those with the help of different mechanisms. And for each and every point we have a guided exercise, right? So when we are going to perform those things, we can also perform after the sessions too as well. So depend like how you guys want to perform those things, you can perform in that way. Now the next what we have, chapter number 5, we have like configure enterprise authentications, right? Again, if you guys remember in the DO380, right, the default we have like ST pass WD mechanisms to authenticate those for the authentications and authorizations, right? In the 5th chapter what we have the same, we can say configure your enterprise authentication with the help of LDAP identity providers, right? So what we have in this particular is like important point of view of exam 2 as well. So again, so in this chapter 5th, what exactly we have, we can say that we are going to configure those LDAP identity provider, right? So we can say that like when we're talking about the authentications and authorizations, so in this particular OpenShift, like configuring OpenShift to authenticate using an IDM users and their credentials, right? And then what we have this particular, the next we have that like automate group synchronizations with an LDAP directories, right? And then what we have, that we have an option for the same. We can also configure those different points. We can say those how we can configure those LDAP identity providers. So we have for G as well. Then we have option for those synchronizations as well. So we have a two guided exercise in this chapter number 5th, right? Like how we can configure the LDAP, because in the exam we have an important point for this particular LDAP as well. So in this particular, how we can configure those LDAP identity providers, and then automate group synchronization with the help of LDAP directory. So again, select small but select very important point, important chapter point of view of the exam as well. So again, we have this important point. Now jumping on the next chapter, we have chapter number 6. What we have that we have like configuring trusted TLS certificate. Again, so we have like transport layer securities parameter again, or overall we can say wanted to access your applications or maybe those clusters with the help over those HTTPS and all those things. So how we can do that with the help of C and all, right? So again, in this chapter, that what we're going to do that, right? That we have option for the change wildcard certificate using by the ingress controller operator, right? That we are going to discuss about in this particular, like integration of OpenShift with the help of enterprise certificate authority, right? So that we are going to change, we can say that like change the wildcard certificate used by the ingress controller operator, that we are going to discuss that. And then configuring an applications to use the trusted certificate bundle, right? That we are going to discuss in this particular point, right? The certificate authority and all those things. And then what we have that the problems, especially we can say the common issues with the OpenShift certificate and then credentials and all those things. So we have like a 3 point, we can say the lab as well. We can say the 3 labs are there. We can say 1, 2 and 3, right? So in that we are going to discuss about how we can configure those trusted certificate, the problem maybe you are facing in your certificate and all those things, how we can troubleshoot those. So troubleshooting is very crucial part again, right? And then those ingress controller operator, how we can use that. Then the how we can configure those trusted certificate, and then the troubleshooting part. So this is about chapter number 6, right, where we can configure all those certificate and those especially to access those applications over the globe, or we can say the internal or external with the help over the certificate, right? Now moving on the next chapter, chapter number 7, that we have a configuring dedicated nodes, right? So what we have exactly in this particular when we're talking about those dedicated nodes, right? So again, in the 380 we have like a large scaling node, right? We have like a multiple master and multiple worker node. So for the testing we have like, let's suppose we have a large application, so that application need a higher resources, right? So for the same, what we have that the objective of this particular chapter is a small chapter, right? So what the objective of this chapter, the same, we can say cleaning a compute node from all the workload in the preparation for a hardware maintenance. Let's suppose if you have an applications and all those things, right? And maybe like you have like lot of pod running inside your clusters and all those things, you wanted to maintain something in your clusters and all those things. What I need to do that, we need to maybe drain out of those machines to somewhere else, right? So what point we have that again, so wanted to wanted to migrate all the pods from one node to another node. So we can say we have like draining concept again, right? So clean the compute node from all the workload in the, for what, for same, for maintenance or reconfigure your node, right? And then we'll talk about how we can create a custom machines configurations pool, right? And edit the existing machines configurations, right? So how we can configure that as well, like we have an option for the create custom machines configurations pool and edit existing machines configurations, right? Again, you guys know about those machine sets and machines configurations parameters. So that we are going to discuss about this particular chapter number 7, that we have like configure dedicating nodes for the same, right? So that is about this particular chapter number 7. This again is like a small topic, but again for the point of view the exam, this is also important for the same, right? So we can say again, cleaning a compute node. Why? To maybe for the maintenance or reconfiguration of those things, and then configurations of your we can say creating a configurations for the custom machines resources and to configure those nodes. So accordingly you can also configure those things. So it's about chapter number 7. Now chapter number 8, as you guys know, as name, persistent storage, right? So wanted to configure those kind of storage and all those, like we have option for the PV and PVC especially, right? So that we have in the chapter number 8, right? That simply we talk about those different component of this OpenShift storage architecture, the storage classes and all those things, right? Then what is the PV, how we can create with the help of those declarative and imperative way, right? How we can create those PVC, how we can assign those PVC to any pod in the deployment and all those things, right? Configuring any application with the help of shared file system or shared file storage, right? Configuring a database application with the help of block storage, right? And then use the custom resources to create a persistent local volumes, right? So again, what options we have, that we have this option with the help of these things. What we can do, we can simply manage and maintain entire storage part in this particular chapter number 7. We're talking about those particular persistent storage, right? So again, it's like an important point, but again these like it's not any we can say changes something, right? But again we have some command, we have some argument actually that help you to automate, that help you to specify those we can say those authentications to those deployment and then those pods. So that is chapter number 8. Now so jumping on the chapter number 9, right? What we have, that especially the managing clusters, monitoring and metrics, right? So as name represent, we have like metrics. It means we can say wanted to monitor your health status of your cluster, pod or any component or services. Then what we have, that the clusters, monitoring and metrics, right? So again in this particular sections or chapter, that what we have, that different cluster monitoring feature, then how we can monitor our clusters, right? Then how we can send alert with the help of alert manager, right? To external location. Let's suppose if something goes wrong, or maybe the point what be error or access, right? So you can also configure those alert log with the help of alert manager. So we can send alert to the external locations, right? And then also we're going to use the Grafana, we can say Prometheus and Grafana, to assist in diagnose clusters problem, right? And in the same thing that we are going to also discuss that are going to also learn about that, like how we can configure those Prometheus and then the alert manager to use those persistent storage. So again, for the troubleshooting point of view, we can say it's like an important point where we can talk about the Grafana and then those Prometheus, like how we can configure and how these tools help you to diagnose your clusters problem, right? So in the exam point of view, we have a question from the same. So accordingly, you guys need to practice those things and then just clear the exam, right? So again, in the chapter number 9, what we have exactly, that how we can monitor your clusters and how we can check entire thing with the help of different point and different of ways, right? Now so jumping on the chapter number 10th, what we have exactly, provisioning and inspecting clusters log, right? If you have a specific clusters for the same, wanted to check the logs and all those things. So what we have, that we have option for the same, like how. So again, if you notice now, what we have, like deploying clusters log, right? So in that we are going to talk about how we can deploy and configure clusters logging, right? And then querying the cluster log with the help of Kibana, right? So again, what we can say, we are simply talking about inspecting the OpenShift and application logs using those particular Kibana user interface or UI, right? And then we have like different other tools as well, so we can use that as well, right? So Kibana that help you to inspect those OpenShift and applications log for the same, right? And then simple we are talking about the when you notice on this point like visualizing clusters log with Kibana. So we can say again like creating a chart to visualize log of the Kibana. Like again in this it's a very nice UI when you're talking about the Kibana, right? So with the help of this Kibana UI that we are going to create the chart to visualize the logs, right? And then the finally what we have that again after finding all those things we are going to diagnose clusters logging problem with the help of debugging and then the monitoring tools, right? So with the help of different points that we are going to talk, like diagnosing clusters logging problem with the help of configurations of those Kibana. Then we have like different tools, log services, monitoring log and all those things. With the help of those things we are going to check about the same, the cluster status, inspect them, find the problem and then fix it. It's like a simple process, right? So it's chapter number 10, right? Now so jumping on the last chapter number 11. So what we have that in the chapter number 11, as name represent, recover fail worker node. It means what? Again, if maybe your worker, we have like multiple 4 node clusters or maybe something like that, right? If maybe your cluster are not in the healthy state or maybe not in the active state, then what you can do that? How we can recover those, like important point 2 as well, the troubleshooting part. So how we can recover those failed worker node, right? With the help of different points. So again, how we can verify those things? So what the recommendations again? If you notice now we have profiling degraded worker node. It means what? So what we can say like profile worker node to examine the healthy node, right? And we can say ensure the node service functionality properly, right? We have data etcd and all those things. We have services kubeset and all those things, right? So again we can say those profile worker node to examine those healthy node status, ensure the node service functions properly and identify those performance or those degradations, right? So again we can say we have like tools, command and all those argument. With these argument and these things, how we can check and how we can verify, so we can use this particular informations, right? And the next what we have, that troubleshooting worker node capacity issues. Again we have like resources issue, we can say the RAM, the storage and all those things. So how we can diagnose with the help of those, again the event, the describe, the logs, right? Either we have like metrics and all those things we can use in that way. So diagnose and troubleshoot capacities issues maybe that occur on worker node. So right, so even though if you describe those things, you can also check that yeah, that we have insufficient resources for the same or something problem occurred in the deployment and all those things. So again these all are like troubleshooting parts, right? So with the help of these troubleshooting, how we can check those things, how we can describe and how we can debug those node in this particular debug mode, we can say that, right? And finally we have like something concept of the node scheduling, those prefer node scheduling options. Then we have like no executing. So these are some concept that we can say apply in the tent. So we have all the options are available and are here in this particular 280. So again all the options are available, depend like how you guys want to manage those things, you can manage accordingly. So again we can say all about how we can check those logs, how we can troubleshoot, and in any situations make sure your node should be in the healthy state, right? So these are all chapter that we are going to cover in this particular 380 training, right? So that we can say scale Kubernetes deployment in this particular enterprise level application. So we can say DO380, right? So again these are informations and these are chapter wise, like from chapter 1 to chapter 11, right? And these are again in the details topic when we talking about the training and all. Okay, so again if anything just let us know, right? We'll always help you for the same, right? And the next we are going to start those the deep and details when we're talking about those chapters and all. So we'll discuss these later, right, in the next sessions. So for now we just wrap up and then we'll start new sessions next day.